The observation deck of the Talon's Pride hummed with the low growl of assembled warriors. Varric stood at the viewport, her ridge scales bristling with barely contained fury as she watched the human ambassador approach through the docking corridor. Another soft-skinned diplomat, she thought, her triple-jointed claws flexing against the reinforced glass. Another weakling species seeking protection they haven't earned. The Krevnar had ruled this sector for 300 cycles. They were apex predators, 7 feet of corded muscle, armored hide, and calculated violence. Their young trained for combat from the moment they could stand. Their adults had never known defeat, until humanity's fleet arrived at the Terran-Krevnar border 6 months ago. And everything Varric thought she understood about the galaxy's hierarchy shattered like prey bone between her jaws. The airlock hissed open. Kira stepped through. Varric's secondary eyelids flickered in confusion. The human was small. Perhaps 5.5 feet, wearing simple gray diplomatic attire that bore no armor plating, no weapon harness, no ceremonial combat trophies. Her skin was pale, unmarked by battle scars. Her limbs appeared fragile. No visible muscle mass, no natural weapons. She carried herself with the casual ease of someone utterly unaware of the danger she stood among. "Alpha Varric," Kira said, her voice steady and warm. She offered no submissive posture, no recognition of rank. Just a slight nod of acknowledgement. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Varric's hunting pack shifted behind her, their growls rising. To show such disrespect to an alpha. "You have 5 minutes, human," Varric rumbled, her voice like grinding stone. "Explain why we should not simply take your colony worlds. Your species has no claws, no fangs, no armor. You are prey pretending to be predators." Kira smiled, an expression that Varric had learned meant many things among humans, not all of them pleasant. "Perhaps we could discuss this in the cultivation chamber. I understand you keep your young there." It was an odd request, but Varric was curious about this strange creature's audacity. She led the way through the ship's corridors, her pack following at a respectful distance, their eyes never leaving the human. The cultivation chamber was a controlled habitat where juvenile Krevnar learned to hunt, to fight, to kill. 20 cubs, each the size of a human child but infinitely more dangerous, trained among artificial terrain and live prey. Today, 2 of them were fighting. It happened sometimes. Young males testing dominance before they were ready. But these 2 were vicious, locked in a spiral that would end in serious injury or death if not stopped. The combat instructors were already moving forward, preparing to separate them with shock prods and restraint nets. Kira walked past the instructors. She moved with purpose, crossing the chamber floor in long, ground-eating strides. Varric tensed, ready to see the human torn apart. A diplomatic incident that would solve several problems at once. But Kira didn't hesitate. She reached down, one hand, just one pale, unarmored hand, and gripped each cub by the scruff of their necks. Her fingers closed around the thick fur and muscle with perfect precision, finding the nerve cluster that every Krevnar mother knew, that controlled aggression and induced submission. The cubs froze instantly, their snarls dying in their throats. Kira lifted them, pulling 100 pounds of struggling predator apart as easily as separating quarreling kittens. She held them at arm's length, her expression calm, almost bored. The cubs dangled from her grip, suddenly docile, their eyes wide with instinctive submission to a superior force. "Stop fighting," she said softly. Then she set them down, released them, and walked back toward Varric. The cubs scattered, whimpering. The entire chamber had gone silent. Varric stared at the human, her combat-trained mind processing what she'd just witnessed with cold, terrifying clarity. The way Kira's fingers had found the nerve cluster without guidance. The strength required to lift and hold 2 struggling juveniles. The absolute confidence in her movements. But most importantly, the control. Varric's eyes fixed on Kira's hands. Those soft, dexterous hands with their opposable thumbs and delicate-looking fingers. She replayed the moment in her mind. The precise grip, the perfect placement, the ease of the motion. She could have broken their necks, Varric realized, her blood running cold. She knew exactly where to grip. She knew exactly how much pressure to apply. She chose not to kill them. It wasn't weakness that had stopped Kira from snapping those spines. It was choice, control, mercy, and that was infinitely more terrifying than raw strength. "You're young or spirited," Kira said, her voice still carrying that warm, conversational tone. "Remind me of my nephew. He's 7, loves to roughhouse with his friends." She flexed her fingers absently, and Varix couldn't stop tracking the movement. "I've had to break up plenty of playground fights. Kids are kids across any species. Kids are kids. As if Krevnar cubs, trained killers who could hunt prey twice their size, were equivalent to human offspring. As if this fragile-looking creature had spent her entire life casually managing beings that could rip and tear and kill. Varix's mind raced through the intelligence reports she'd dismissed as exaggeration. Humans who could run for days without stopping. Humans who healed from injuries that would kill most species. Humans who threw objects with deadly accuracy. Whose hands could craft tools of incredible precision or weapons of unimaginable destruction. Pursuit predators, the reports had called them. Endurance hunters. They don't chase prey until it's tired. They chase until it's dead from exhaustion. And those hands, those incredible, precise, deadly hands that could perform surgery, build starships, paint art, play music, write poetry, and break a neck with the same casual ease if they chose to. "Your 5 minutes are up, Alpha," Kira said. "But I think we both know we need more than 5 minutes to discuss the treaty terms. Your species is strong, fierce, proud, honorable. We respect that. We'd like to be allies, not enemies." She extended one of those hands toward Varix. "What do you say?" Varix looked at the offered hand, that weapon wrapped in flesh, that tool of both creation and destruction. She thought about her fleet, her warriors, her people. She thought about humanity's colony worlds, defended by creatures that looked weak but hid a predator's heart beneath soft skin. She thought about her own cubs and how easily they could be broken by something that chose not to break them. Slowly, carefully, Varix reached out and grasped the human's hand. Kira's grip was firm, warm, and controlled. Always controlled. "Allies," Varix agreed, her voice rough with newfound respect. "We would be honored to stand beside humanity." As Kira smiled, that still mysterious expression that Varix was beginning to understand meant satisfaction, pleasure, triumph. The Alpha made a mental note to update the species profile in the Krevnar database. Humans, apex predators, pursuit hunters, deceptively fragile appearance, extreme fine motor control, capable of extraordinary violence, approach with caution and respect, always respect.